orgasmic enlightenment, where the sexual and spiritual come together. I'm Kim Anami, and I'm a holistic sex and relationship coach and a vaginal weightlifter. In this show, we explore all things intimate. I believe that our sexual energy is life force, creative energy, and we can use it to shape our worlds, strengthen our relationships, and self-actualize. I blend the most avant-garde information from neuroscience, ancient sexual practices like Tantra and Taoism, to renegade wellness modalities to show you how to create gourmet sex in your lives. Come one, come all. From fighting to fucking. If you aren't fucking enough or fucking well, you are going to be fighting. I guarantee it. It's an irrefutable law of nature. If thou dost not fucketh enough, thou dost will be very angry and mean. Whether you're in a relationship where the sex is infrequent or subpar and you're bickering and testy with each other, or if you're single and you create opportunities to yell at shop clerks and road rage at someone for not going fast enough on their way to the stoplight, all of this is misdirected sexual energy, nothing more. No one who is truly well fucked has excess vitriol in them to lash out at other people because it's all been fucked out of them. The way a wild, torrential, tropical storm comes in and washes away all the impurities, leaving the air clean and thick and sensual in its wake. This is the energy you carry when you are well fucked. You flow and you glow. These people are too busy floating through life, showering love and kindness on everyone they meet because their cup runneth over. Specifically, their fluids and ejaculate are gushing out of them and raining juiciness, wit, and joy upon the world. Do well-fucked couples even fight, you might ask? Only if they've dropped off in their fucking. Many a couple has shared with me that if they miss a beat in their sexual practices, let's say a day or two goes by without them having sex, they will get bristly with each other. And then, because they've been trained in the Anami way of the well-fucked life, they quickly figure it out. Oh, we haven't had sex since last night. That's why we're getting irritated with each other. And they get right on top of that problem and sort it out. Your gourmet sex life has the ability to alchemize and evaporate your day-to-day challenges and issues. That's what it's there for, as the ultimate receptacle for you to transform, heal, and rejuvenate each other. If you aren't using this container for what it's meant to be used for, then all of that pent-up energy has to go somewhere. And it will go everywhere. Like a giant shitstorm volcano, it will erupt all over each other, your children, your work colleagues, on strangers. Anywhere it can get some kind of mutated expression, when really all it wants to do is fuck each other senseless. Senseless meaning your mind gets out of the way and you begin to operate from a much more intuitive, in-tune flow. In the zone, and that becomes your new life. Your bed, your intimate connection was meant to be your sanctuary, recharging, and recalibration station. You tap back into that divine flow of the universe every time you make love, at least in a conscious Anami-style way. It's the same reason why people fall in love with surfing and they rearrange their lives to be able to surf every day, like me. When you catch a few great waves and you align yourself and fill yourself with the life force source energy of the universe, you realize how it feeds you. And then you find ways to prioritize connecting with it. So, what gets in the way of that? We do. There are a myriad of ways in which we block our own flow. Fear, resistance, not knowing what we don't know, unhealed trauma, programming. Getting to the place of living in the zone, in your sexual zone of flow, means being willing to dive in and deal with whatever barriers that you've placed or have been superimposed upon you that may inhibit that flow. In today's All-Star interview, we are talking with Premala and David. Premala did the Well Fucked Woman Salon, and then her partner, David, did Sexual Mastery for Men, and she's just wrapping up Vaginal Kung Fu right now. At the start of the VKF Salon, in one of our first group calls, Premala called in to ask a very serious question. Kim, I am wet all the time. I am soaking through panties and leaving puddles everywhere. So wet, so troublesome. Such is the plight of the well-fucked woman and couple, needing my expert guidance on how to deal with all of the gushing fluids. After our conversation, the group came up with the hashtag Be Like Premala. She was inspiration for everyone, and now she's going to inspire you. This story is even more preposterous when you hear where she came from and what she overcame to get there. In this episode, we talk about Premala's history of severe sexual abuse and her journey to become a well-fucked all-star, how the both of them went from fighting to fucking and barely having sex in 2 years to now having it 3 to 4 times a day. Fight, flight, and freeze as responses to unhealed trauma, Our Lady of Perpetual Wetness, buying special towels for all of the squirting ejaculate, both needing to work out to stay fitter for all of the fucking, and Premala having the full range of orgasmopedia in her repertoire, G-spot orgasms for lunch, and then later on, cervical orgasms for dinner and a bedtime snack, and how they are manifesting their dream lives from all of the amazing fucking that they are doing. Well Fucked All-Stars! All right, welcome, David and Premala. It's so great to have you here, and we're so excited to hear about your adventures in the Well Fucked universe.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us both.
So tell us about where you were in your relationship prior to embarking on this journey, and then, what happened. But start with where you were. How were things for you, and what even prompted you to think, this is something I'd like to do some work on? And feel free to jump in, either of you. Yeah.
Where was I? Well, our relationship was on the brink of absolutely going sideways and apart. We fought a lot. We fought a lot over the years. We've been married for 13 years. We've been married for 13 years. We've had a lot of upheaval to go through. I didn't realize in that time frame. I knew I'd been sexually abused. I remembered in my early 30s, but I didn't remember the details. And over the course of our relationship, things got to a point where I shut the door on anything sensual, sexual, intimate, completely, to the point where I think we went 2 years without having sex. Yeah. Well, it was forced.
It's not that we weren't having sex. It just wasn't. There was no spark. There was no fire. It was kind of like a man who's the desperate simp who just tries to get what he can, and then he's disappointed and unsatisfied with it because it's not fulfilling, and he's not. I wasn't feeling loved, and she wasn't able to express herself in any way, shape, or form. It wasn't constructive. It didn't really bring us together at all.
So, Premala, would you say that was more of like obligatory sex, or were you actually feeling like you wanted to, but you just couldn't, find it in yourself?
No, I tried, but it was more like, I'm married to this man. I do care for him, but I really didn't know how to express that. And every time he touched me, I would just shut down. My whole body would shut down. Everything about it just made me feel filthy. The words that ran through my mind, I just was dirty. I was always dirty. I needed everything clean. I have been diagnosed in the past with having OCD. I have been diagnosed with having PTSD, manic depression, the whole works of it. It's just ridiculous. And, the doctors tried to put that all In Australia, they try to put it all onto your data, and I refused the health system, and I refused. I said no. I didn't want to be labeled and put in a box, but I definitely suffered from PTSD and was definitely triggered, like little things, and I would just go into a state and I would be lost completely. I'd have fits, and I'd, lack of a better way of putting it, I'd throw a massive tantrum, which could really be quite violent in so many ways as well. I'm violent to myself, violent to him. I had no comprehension of what was occurring in my body at all. And I'm trained scientifically, I'm trained scientifically. I have done work in that field, and yet all I felt was this overwhelming sense of shame and guilt and betrayal, and I couldn't even put words to that, and I didn't even know why until I remembered every detail of what had happened. And then all I wanted to do was commit myself into an institution, be drugged, and fall asleep and never wake up. And that was really what I wanted more than anything else, to which I got told that the only way to get into the institution was to try to commit suicide. That's like, wow, okay. So it has been an uphill battle in trying to regain some level of control back in my life and understanding and bringing some love. And I know David's been, well, he was always going on about Kiminami, you need to do Kiminami, you should. For over 8 years, he has done that. He's gone, listen to this podcast, listen to this, listen. I was like, no, she says too many F words. I can't listen to that. It's not right. I don't like it.
You're in Australia. You're in Australia. How are you not used to that by now?
No, she just was a prude, and there was so much judgment and so much shame and make wrong. She couldn't even say sex. It'd be like, hey, do you want to have sex? She would go to swear, and there would be this apprehension and this pause and this drop of tone, and volume would just plummet. And there was so much restriction. So she was like in an internal prison. And it's been a very tumultuous, would that be the right word? A lot of upheaval in the unveiling of all of this. Like initially, I would say, like when people first get together and you have that honeymoon phase, it was wonderful. And as things were discovered and uncovered, it progressively got worse and worse and worse. And we went to different sorts of therapists. I remember there was I think the title was a sexologist. And I said, you need to go and talk to somebody. And she goes, you go. I'm like, all right, I'll go. And eventually she came, and there was benefit from it. But talking about things only gets you so far. And the circles that I moved in, there happened to be other people some ladies who do stuff along the same lines as yourself, and we were in communication with them, and it just didn't click for Premala. And I think I'd all but just, as much as I wanted her to participate in your work, I had kind of just let go. And the day that she registered in the program, there was no prompting for it, and she said, I just registered in this. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll see. I was just so resigned.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that things, like she was saying that the relationship was going sideways. I guess it was, because it was at a plateau. It was it was just in stagnation. And after she started, I remember, I don't know what week it was in, but we were in this house temporarily. We're in the process of moving, and the office was just this big open area, and I walked past and I hear her talking to a bunch of ladies about dildos, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And for someone who won't say the word sex or drop an F-bomb, and now I was like, what the hell? Well, this is new. Let's just roll with that. And And then things just started to dramatically shift, and there was no need really for talking unless it was in hindsight. Like, this worked, that didn't work, I really like this, I didn't like this, I would like to go this direction. And for what I would understand as being a normal, healthy relationship, it just started to move in that direction. And it's like, oh my God, this is how it's supposed to be all the time. And this is just the beginning. And we even, like, we've moved now, and we find ourselves in some precarious circumstances with regards to potential flooding and a lot of other issues that typically would have us at each other's throats. But we are at each other's throats, but in a different way. It doesn't seem to have phased us anywhere near as much as it would. It's not to say that it still doesn't stress us out and make us anxious, but there's always room put aside for love. Like, we don't do a monthly thing, we don't do a weekly thing that's structured really, but we nearly do a daily thing. So I would say there is some degree of structure taking place, and it's amazing. It's just a different world. It's a different reality.
That's wonderful to hear. So, Pamela, what was the impetus that had you finally sign up for the salon? Because it sounds like you did it without even letting David know that you were doing it, and suddenly you're talking about cocks and dildos and dicks, cocksucking and whatever, and and he's like, "This is fucking great." But like, what was the the push that brought you over the edge to committing and doing it?
So David actually, let me take 2 steps back here. COVID took place, obviously, and it shut so much down, and David stopped working. So David's a remedial bone therapist, and he does all that. He stopped working in that field because he said he's not going down there. That's not happening, and he wasn't interested in the whole conversation around is pro or anti or any of that. It just, people were just going a bit crazy where we were, everywhere in New South Wales. But so he pulled back, and we started seeing the ridiculous mandates and people trying to force things. So he went down the route of, and this is an odd one, but he went down the route of law, looking at the legislation. Now, my background is as an environmental consultant and doing legislations and listening to all of that and having to converse with counsel. I was listening very clearly to what he was talking about, which was law and not legal. And he started this conversation. He did this course. He started running these programs himself. And in the program, the individual who his mentor brings up the conversation about the distinction of man and woman versus being in the world of person, which is the dead and the legal. And so I did his course, and I'm a woman. The first point, that for the first thing was like a big shift. I'm a woman. It was like, oh my God. It's like, I know I have this physical body as a woman and I have attributes, but I've never actually gotten what it was to be a woman till I did I did his course. And then after doing that course, and it's like back to back, Kim, did this, it was almost like this light bulb moment. And then we were in another course we were involved with, which had to do with business management and practices. And I was listening to somebody on that, and suddenly your ad came on, and it was a week into the program, but your ad came on. I'd been looking at it, nothing. And then I saw it, and I saw in front of me on the computer, I literally saw, why am I resisting something that I know is the next evolution for me? I literally felt it. I saw it and I went, I'm doing that. And I didn't think twice. While this is going on, and I hate to say it, but the program was going on, listening to another program, I went online, I just registered. I just went, I've got to do this now. It's the right time. So I just felt it.
Yeah. It's so interesting that one of your avenues in there to open that door for you sexually and in your body was that acknowledgement of the truth, which I know of which you speak, and it's probably too much to summarize here on the podcast, but this distinction between natural man and woman and then the legal, imaginary, fictitious trap that most people are existing within. And some of our listeners will understand exactly what we mean, and some will maybe need to go down a rabbit hole. But it's interesting that within that, you found that identity. And also interesting in that right now in our world, there's such a, it's funny, right? Because that's actually, as you say, like a lawful, natural establishment of identity, in that it was so profound for you that it brought you to this place. And that's the very thing that most people are trapped by and have no idea is trapping them. Is like, and there's such a push right now to even move away from the whole idea of man and woman, right? Like male and female don't exist. There's no such thing, and that's just a whatever imaginary. It's like, and that's such gaslighting and utter bullshit, right? And especially when you look at it in this dimension as well, like how significant that is and how people have just been so gaslit and eating it up, right? I always laugh, like feel like there's like one psyop after another, and people are just like opening up their mouth, like, come in my mouth, like with the next psyop, right? Like, give me more, can you come on my tits? Give it all to me, right? So hilarious, right? And then I'm just being so virtuous, like, no, you're dumb as fuck. So anyway, carry on. So you're you take the leap and you sign up, and then so at that stage you've had this sort of opening realization of your identity as a woman, and then that's thrust you into like, all right, that means, because it sounds like your history and the trauma that you've experienced, like there was obviously this big level of dissociation, right? Like all the symptoms you describe are like PTSD type symptoms. And then this was like the first step of embodiment of like, I'm going to be in and own this body, which again, I think is the opposite of what's happening in all these circles of people wanting to cut their body parts off, is an utter rejection of being in their body that's now been like normalized, right? Like dysfunction being normalized, like, oh, it's totally normal to cut off all your body parts. No, it's not. So
no. And it's interesting because the thing that actually led for me to get all of that was a realization. We got pregnant and years ago, and when I went in and we had a really bad miscarriage, and when I went into the hospital, when David took me into the hospital with me screaming, I don't want to go in, while I was going in and out of consciousness.
She actually it wasn't like the fallopian tube burst. She ruptured her uterus. She lost 2 liters of blood. She nearly died. It was supposed to be keyhole surgery. She ended up on the table for 4 hours, had a big C-section scar.
And when I went in and the doctor said what he said, my first thing with the surgeon, I said to him, was he told me it was keyhole surgery. And I actually said to him, fine, if that is the case, I'll sign. But I actually said, I'm not authorizing surgery, like somebody to cut me open. And I said that, and guess what? They didn't do that. Obviously, they cut me open because I'm still here. But he came back and he knew because he was the first individual I saw when I came out of the anesthetic. And he said, I saved your life. And I was like, what? And then I realized, and I said, you didn't, first words after I realized was, you did not have permission for that. And he said it again, said, I saved your life. I was like, it took me 4 or 5 years to realize that incident was tantamount to me being raped again, like I had been as a child. And that really triggered so much, because for me, it was like, I didn't authorize that. I didn't consent to that. And you'd taken something that was mine, and it's my life. It wasn't yours. Yours was a statistic. That's all you care about as a surgeon, is the statistics of that individual lying on that table. You don't give a damn about me. And it took forever to realize that when he had cut, and it's only now that I'm actually starting to realize this fully, that it's not just a physical cut. He cut through all my fields, all my bodies, and I'm healing that. And it's through the work that you have created, Kim, doing the egg practice, having this, having sex with my husband, but it's not sex, making love to him on a daily basis and doing all of this. I'm healing all my auric fields. I'm allowing it. Every time I come, every time I have this sense of this build-up and this orgasm, it's like the Big Bang all over again. It's like my body repairs and it just goes out into the next field and goes out into the next field and into the next field. And I'm closing all the fractures that have come due to all the pain and suffering that my body has taken on in this lifetime, and potentially, I don't know how many other lifetimes. And it's just, that's how I feel right now. That's what, for me, this work has given me access to. It's allowed me to talk to people. It's given me that ability to see, and to think. I came from a space where I couldn't even have him touch me. I couldn't, it's a complete shutdown where we couldn't even be close. I think to myself, how the hell did we even manage to stay together? I just discovered yesterday from my husband that he actually fell in love with me very soon after we got together. And he was heartbroken because his teacher, which was doing all the work with the Qigong and Nigong and all of that, told him that I was so scarred he shouldn't invest his time and energy. And the poor man broke, but he still stayed with me.
He was probably right.
But he still stayed with me. So I'm eternally grateful for whatever he's given me, but also for the fact that he has been so persistent about you.
8 years, Kim.
8 years. Wow. Is that like little breakfast notes at the table beside your porridge? Like, here's the Kim and Ami podcast episode. Like,
I'll just leave browser windows open on the computer and just let podcasts play. All the little subtle manipulative things that one can do.
Maybe like the subconscious, like subconsciously it started to seep in, like you just let the podcast play and she'd be hearing it somewhere. So tell me more about how you opened sexually. Like, let's say orgasmically, Premala, like where were you before in terms of your orgasmic potential and where are you now?
Okay. So when I first met David, we had incredible sex. It was wonderful. It was amazing. The issue, and it's interesting because I was in control. It was all from the masculine. It was all directed by me. It was completely me doing certain things and managing it. Now, over the course of our relationship, David has always gone, I wanted to go back to that. I wanted to go, and kept going, no, I can't let it go back to that because it doesn't fit. It doesn't feel right. Then when I did Well-Fucked Woman.
So can I interject for just a moment? Does that mean it was more performative for you? Like when you say in the masculine?
Do you want to try this one?
Sure. Well, she would say that where I wouldn't, because that's not what was going through my mind at the time. But she was a professional performer anyway. So to an extent, you could say that she was somewhat acting because she could control that.
Very much so. Yes, it was performative. It was like I knew what. I don't even know how to explain it. I think back to it and I go, it had to do with me. I never surrendered. I never let go. It just did not happen like that. It was all about how it was just sex and that was it. I had I cared for this individual. I wanted to be more, but I didn't know how to tap into anything about as being a woman or anything like that. I didn't know any of
It
that.
was all compartmentalized for her, but she wasn't even able to articulate that.
Look, I think it's that way for many people, and especially women people, because I think this idea of surrender, right, which applies to both men and women, but archetypally even more so, I think for women, their entry point in sexually isn't valued in our culture, isn't valued in the world. The idea of surrender, of opening, letting go, being vulnerable, letting go of control is actually a way to be in more control ultimately. But in terms of your own autonomy and centeredness within your being, but doesn't feel like that in the moment. So it's a very scary place to be. So I think a lot of people adapt a veneer, a persona of, performing, of acting, of even this whole idea of faking orgasms, or even faking pleasure, or even just not being honest, like going through the motions because that's what you do. And there's a certain obligation to be sexual, but there's not much going on underneath that. So I like that you were aware of that and said, I don't want to just go back into performing. I need to find this from an authentic place within, and then, move from that place.
Yeah. And to that effect, when we first got together, we never needed to use lube. I've never been one to use lube or anything artificial. Couldn't even go down the route. Like, this is how bad the trauma was. I couldn't even go down the route of going and getting a vibrator. It was for me, it just wasn't right. It felt wrong to do that. So pretty much I could go without sex for years and it would have been fine. I was a freaking nun. I could have meditated my life into oblivion, is how I put it, and it would have been fine. Except I like men and I like the company of men, and specifically I love my husband, so it made it a little bit hard. But as I journeyed, and with yourself, with the course specifically, what took place was a realization that there was opportunity for me to discover me on another level. And so, how when the Well-Fat Woman course, you have the first couple of weeks, I said, because I hadn't been in there first week, I said I had to catch up. So I caught up really fast. And then you were talking about self-pleasuring and doing all that. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? How the hell am I supposed? What? I never ever looked at myself like that or stuck a finger there. And it's really fascinating because we were in Old Bar in New South Wales near the water, and one of the things we'd done was to go for a walk every day near the water. So I went for a walk, and it's funny, I can't find it now, but I found as we were walking this rock, which was from the ocean, but a rock which was formed like a dildo, which was for the G-spot. I found this on the ocean side, and it pushed up. So I was like, I picked it up and I went, oh, well, I'm going to use that. And it's interesting because that actually started my sort of let me feel myself and allow, because I couldn't allow myself to finger myself or do anything. It felt odd. So I started with that. And then that led to me being able to touch myself and feel it. And then when you talked about the whole G-spot, the G-spot salon, where we did all that, David actually gave me, he fingered me, and
I was waiting. I was ready.
And he gave me this massage, and this internal massage, and everything, it just blew my brain. Oh my God. I went, is that a G-spot? Oh my God, I didn't even know that existed. What the? Okay, there's that whole part. And he said, okay, that's when he said, okay, you need to feel it. So I actually felt it, and I went, oh, wow, that feels like this. And that led to me being able to feel that part of me. My finger is not long enough for my cervix, which is fine, but I have a husband, so it's fine. But the journey was basically one step at a time. And then when you talked of surrender, and it was interesting because for me, I went, surrender, how does that look? And I just kept saying the words, I surrender, every time we would do something. Like he would come at me, Dave would come at me, and he'd want to kiss me around my neck. And I'm super like, no, don't go there, don't do that, don't. And I just got to surrender, let it happen, let it happen, let it happen. It's all good. I'm surrendering. And I would just realize that, wow, that's really nice. I feel really loved when that happens. I feel safe. That was my big thing. I feel safe. It tipped over from being, I feel safe with him, to realizing actually my safety comes from me. Because the moment I feel safe for me, and I can hold my own, then I can let go completely, and I don't have to control any narrative, because now I know that I'm having fun. So it was quite a journey to be able to let that go, because every time, and it still happens, sometimes it'll, like, these walls will come in, and it almost wants to shut me down, and I have to breathe. So now I'm doing the breathing, and I visualize that, and I see it, and I just open up, and I allow my whole body to open up, and I can feel the experience, like my body, instead of contracting, is just expanding out. And I've realized that for me is a critical part, because I've contracted my whole life to stay small, to stay protected, to stay safe. What in effect I've done is actually inhibited my expression of me, and I've actually not been safe, and I've pushed everybody away, and no one's actually gotten to experience me. I know I'm a powerful woman, but I'm the kind of powerful that people end up getting so scared they have to run the opposite direction, kind of thing. And so I've had this huge stories running in the background, and now I've just gone, no, I'm opening up. So that, including that, was, once I finished your course, was me saying, once we get up here, I'm not wearing any more pants. I'm not wearing pants unless I go out to physical labor, work in the garden or do something. Then I'll wear pants, but I won't wear underwear, and I won't wear a bra. And so I've gone out and bought dresses and just kept looking. I've allowed my hair to grow completely again. I'm not cutting it as it sees, I'm just letting it grow. I've got a little bit of lipstick and a little bit of makeup, but nothing huge, but I've got that on because of this, but otherwise I generally don't wear anything. And the amount of things, in spite of the chaos that has taken place in our life, with what has happened, is been phenomenal. We've joined a nation, a different nation in Australia. It's something that totally out of this world. It's one of the first nations in this country. It doesn't exist in Australia, but it's the original Indigenous people. So we've joined that, and we're doing work with them, and it's just has opened doors upon doors upon doors. It's unbelievable, the amount of doors.
Wow. So that's so incredible to hear. So what, David, how would you share your side of that journey as well? So you're watching her, she's diving into this work, you're perhaps surprised at first and then excited. And so what was that like for you? And then how did you support her in that journey? Because obviously you knew that she had this history of trauma and perhaps even programming, what we all have, some of us more deeply than others. And so how did you see your role to help facilitate that?
You're saying from when she participated in Well-Fought Woman, from then? Or?
Yeah, when she started the journey of, okay, I'm going to go down this path and look at these things and aim to shift.
Initially, it was to make sure that she had time and space for herself. So, because it had been such a sensitive subject and topic for such a long time, and when she finally decided, I'm doing this, and when Premala gives her word to something, it's a guarantee she will do it. Her word is her bond. And so I'm like, oh, okay, this is happening, and this could turn out really, really good or really, really bad. So it was really just providing a space and just listening for what it was that she needed. As soon as she had, I don't know if she was in the midst of the program or she was near the end, she said, I think you should do the men's one. I'm like, okay. And so I was ready to dive in straight away.
I have a question for you first. Like, after years of urging or suggesting or trying to coax her into doing this work, and like you mentioned earlier, the word resigned, right? And then when she did it, was it easy for you to kind of like have the faith or be open? Because some people build up a wall, I think, after there's been a lot of resistance or stagnancy, to kind of like, well, whatever. Like, they're there, but they're not there. Like, they've kind of shut down already. So how, like, for you, were you able to be open to, okay, let's see what you said, that her word is her bond. So you obviously had this sense like she would follow through on doing this.
Yeah.
But what was happening with you internally? Like, did you let yourself be hopeful and excited? Were you just like, let's wait and see? Like, how did you feel?
I think I'm a pretty stubborn guy. So if I get hold of something, I typically don't let go. Oh, and we're still here.
That comes in handy for vaginal. It comes in handy for vaginal orgasms.
This is also true. I would say I'd like to say that I was resigned. I think I just held my cards close to my chest. I had no attachment to a result, because we've been through so much and we've tried so many different avenues, and I just knew this will be it. This will be it. Here's the magic. I could just hear it. And I think I had got to a point of acceptance that this is just how things are right now. And I didn't allow myself to get excited when I knew, she's made this commitment. Because I think I'd had so many expectations, and to an extent I would have sort of choked opportunity and possibility and suffocated things. So I really went, this has to be treated so preciously. I had to stay as open as possible, but not attached to anything. So I wouldn't say I was resigned. I would say I was very centered. Like, this is a really important thing. Yet I would say I was tired. I was really tired because of what we've been through for so many years. There was so much trauma and so much upset, and as patient as I used to think I was, when you're attempting to deal with something for years and years and years, it wears you down. And I was pretty worn, to the point like I was polished shiny. And but the moment, I think once she got into it and I'd heard those conversations that looked light years away, that all of a sudden had just started taking place, I was probably shocked, more than in a good way shocked. And then going through the sexual mastery for men, it was surprisingly how much internal conflicts came up for me as well. Yeah.
Right. So you took the SMM course, and then, what were the changes and shifts for you?
I think actually keeping me in my body to begin with. So, and just becoming aware of what goes on with a woman's body. So I don't remember which week it was, but you emphasized before you enter a woman, she should be dripping wet. Where I think, well, it was always, well, is she wet? Yes or no? Because if she's wet, then sure, you can have sex. Where the sense of being connected and letting go of an outcome of orgasm, letting go of an outcome of performance, just letting go of so much, and just to be in your body, make sure that she's in her body and that she's ready to receive you. made sex go from very inconsistent to, it's almost like when the woman, when she was wet, it was like her body was saying, I want you with me now. So then it was like my body would respond and go, okay, well, we can fuck for a long time now. Where prior to that, it would be, well, she's not ready, but I'm going to enter you anyway. And I'm going to last 5 minutes. Because it's almost like there's this communication that's taking place between the bodies. In addition, so not only are you not ready, oh, well, I don't want to inconvenience you. I'll get this over with quickly. In addition to, well, if you're not turned on, then you don't actually want me. You don't desire me. So I'm not loved. So my body doesn't want to be here. So it still wants to be with you and to express that love and that pleasure and that joy. But on a physical level, it's actually not being reciprocated. And it's not that she doesn't want to, it's just that we're not in our bodies and we're not present to what's going on. So it's like, I think a lot of what would be considered as premature ejaculation is because the whole interaction is done in a premature manner. And when things shifted, I really got present to that Taoist metaphor of women are like water, men are like fire. You have to have enough fuel in the fire to get that fire cranking. And if you don't, you will burn out like a match. And so that has shifted things so dramatically. There's almost like a sense of once getting past a certain point specifically during intercourse, it's almost like there's this, your cock gets this fullness, and it's a fullness and it's relaxed at the same time. And it's like this hypersensitivity that I would say a lot of guys have with the anticipation, and they're just overexcited because, oh, she's going to touch it. She's going to touch it. That dissipates, and it's like, I'm just here. It's almost like it is my job. It is my mission for her to be fulfilled and for her brains to be exploded, because it's like, it's a medicine. And I get to administer that, and I also, it's reciprocal. And it completely transforms the interaction afterwards. Like, it's almost like this whole experience from where we used to have so much argument and upset. It was actually the presence of passion that was expressed in a destructive manner. Where when that could be brought to the bedroom and it could be expressed in the bedroom, it's creative, it's not destructive. And afterwards, and I just remember you saying, you know, when your woman nags you, it's because you haven't fucked her properly. And I'm like, that is so true. And so all that runs through my head now is, oh no, she's carrying on about this. We need to go upstairs. She needs some medicine.
You need some medicine.
So a lot of medicine.
So I love your recognition, because I think that even when a woman is in that naggy, bitchy framework, you're thinking like, well, the last thing she wants is to have sex. And consciously, perhaps that is true, except that underneath the surface, what she really needs is to have sex. But she's gotten so used to that framework of, I guess, pushing you away, right? Pushing away her partner. And then the partner responding to that push away, him getting irritable. And like you said, there's this fighting energy that then becomes habitual, and all the sexual energy gets channeled into the fighting rather than the fucking. And then when we can step out of that with that awareness, and then like the recognition of like, oh, she just needs to get really well fucked. She needs my cock in her throat. Like, that's what is going to, that's the workaround here. And then even for the woman to come to realize that, right? Like, because when people go through my work and then they start to have that vocabulary, they recognize, okay, this is just misdirected sexual energy. This is warped sexual energy, we need to redirect it and give it its pure natural expression. And that's the way home.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, he has even on occasion turned around of late and said, do you need to get some? I've gone, yes, please, I need that.
Yeah.
Or it's just over the shoulder, or it's just off the feet, and away we go. No questions asked.
Yeah.
But there still needs to be some degree of relatedness. Like if there is an issue, it needs to be cleared before that's a possibility. So it's almost like the subtleties in communication start to become more prominent, like they just stand out really clearly. So now we hardly argue anymore. It's been so transformational. And when it does happen, we've got so much more time, patience, and ability to let it go, get complete with it. It's just water. It's much more water off a duck's back than what it was historically, where it would hang on and linger. Where now, it's so different. It's a different world.
Mm-hmm.
So the vaginal orgasms, like the G-spot stimulation, the cervical orgasms, how has that been going?
This can be edited out later.
Go on.
I think the first time she had a G-spot orgasm, we've had to buy these special towels to lie on because we just change the bed all the time. So now we've got to be strategic about this.
We change the sheet once a week. It's interesting, the whole thing. So the vaginal orgasms, the G-spots are phenomenal. Like, oh my God, holy moly. It's like my brain, I can't, sometimes it's almost to the point that I forget to breathe because I'm in such a hyper state and I've got to go, keep breathing. So I then do the breathing and it calms it down a bit and then it rises even more and it just keeps tightening. But there is this wetness that sometimes I go, I can't even get myself to the bathroom because there's just so much wetness. So I've had to go put tissues around the place to make sure that I can actually wipe myself because it's literally down my thighs. It's ridiculous. As far as the cervical orgasm goes, the first time I had one, I just cried. I literally cried and cried because it was an opening and then I've had this really interesting thing that happens to me. I start laughing a lot, a ridiculous amount of laughing, like stupid laughing. I can't believe how much laughter there is. Sometimes I start laughing. I can't stop laughing. So he just goes, she's laughing, and he keeps moving through it and just keeps smacking me for whatever reason, for whatever it is, and it just keeps happening. But the cervical orgasm, sometimes it's because we've been at this almost playfulness where it's been ongoing through the day. When he ends up actually fucking me, it's like I hit that spot of a cervical orgasm so fast because it isn't like it's a sudden we're having sex. It's actually building and building and building and building and building. And it might be like the third or fourth time we've actually had sex in the day. And that's when I actually hit it. So it's like my body is just building this energy. Yeah, I'm primed to have
Did you
this
say
occur.
The third or fourth time that you've had sex during the day?
Yes.
So you guys are delightfully making up for lost time.
We are delightfully.
We have a commitment.
we do have a real commitment, and because I've discovered, oh my God, this is so much fun. I love having him in me. I want that. I've never wanted to. I've always had, like I said, the yuckiness about it being the whole OCD thing. I've never been able to go near anything wet or slimy and any of those things. So I couldn't give him a blowjob. It wasn't even in my vocabulary. It wasn't. Every time he'd say, "Can you go down on me?" But like, no, why? What for? And it just wouldn't make me uncomfortable. And now I do it. As much as I can, I do it. And it's like, okay, I try my hardest. I'm still getting over certain things. It took a while for me to get the whole deep throating, but I'm definitely getting that. I figure if I practice, that's the best way. To the point where I'll set it up that I want to have him do that, and even have him lie on top of me so that he can actually navigate that process. So I'm lying back and he can navigate it. I find that a big turn on, a really big turn on. It's like, holy moly. Having him do that, we've even talked to the whole anal sex, all of that's now open for conversation. We've had anal sex once, and we're still in the exploration of that and having that. But yes, but sometimes it is 3 to 4 times a day where it's just fun activities. Instead of making it long and arduous, it's not 5 minutes, but it's not hours and hours. But if we do have sex, it'd be 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and then we'll stop and we'll actually pull back instead of allowing the orgasm to fully take place. By this stage, I would have already had a G-spot orgasm and some other like levels of at least 2 or 3 sense of feeling totally like my body's filled. And then he pulls out, and then we do it again, and then we do it again. And by the time the evening comes and we've done it the last time, yes, I've hit that cervical orgasm to the point where I'm like, oh my God.
So you're using, this approach of using these simmering sexual encounters as a type of foreplay. You're obviously having sex, intercourse, and having different levels of orgasm, but it's building to a higher and higher crescendo by the time you hit the 3rd or 4th experience. Meaning you don't, because I think a lot of people who maybe aren't aware of this idea of tantra and the expansive orgasm and what I talk about, this sexual simmer, it's a very delineated like start, build, contractions, orgasm, decline of energy, and that's it. Rather than this experience where you build, you plateau, you build, you plateau, you build, you plateau, and you never really have to drop off. And so you're living at this level, this what I call the sexual simmer of an 8 or a 9 all the time. And so, as you say, then these orgasms are much more available to us because we're not starting from cold to get to boiling. We're starting at a high simmer, and going over the edge at that point is really easy.
And that partly is why I'm perpetually wet, because I am perpetually in this state. It's like the littlest thing sometimes. Yeah.
The littlest thing, like what?
Oh, the littlest thing, like sometimes when David will just sometimes David will just kick me on my bum or slap me on my bum as I'm walking past, and it's almost like I'm going to come right there, just there.
Didn't you have a problem, Premala? You wanted to not wear panties so much, but then you found that you were like getting wet all over the place, and so you had this dilemma, like, how do I not wear panties when I'm wet all the time?
Which is what has been occurring, and I've just gone, I'm not wearing panties. That was my word. I'm not wearing panties. It makes it. I wore it. Like I tried after you said, okay, wear some panties and take a pair with you if you feel like that. So I tried, and all I could feel was my panties, and it was like hitting into me, and I just felt uncomfortable. And was like I wasn't available. I felt like I'd shut the door. I don't know how else to explain it. I just felt like I'd put this thing and shut the door, and it was uncomfortable. So I went back to, I'm not wearing that. And if that means I just carry a bit of tissue with me, I'll carry a bit of tissue with me wherever I go, and that's fine. Or because actually doing the VKF, what has occurred is I've actually been able to, yes, I'm wet, but I've actually been able to contract and hold myself a little bit more in, and that's actually helping me I know I'm wet, but it's not dripping down my leg or doing any of those things. So that's a good thing. So there you go. That would be why I would personally on that. That would be the VKF to do, because at least that gives you the physical capabilities of knowing where your body's, what's happening in there.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, David, do you have any? Premala's shared these great breakthroughs and ascensions in her sexual evolution and transformation. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share from your perspective that's happened to you on your sexual journey?
I think I'm actually very surprised how comfortable I am with absolutely everything. There's still areas we have not ventured, and I'm sure that I will reach my limits eventually. But I would say that it's systemically penetrating all other areas of life, actually. So since we've moved, and I don't know if it's just that we've come to an area where there's like-minded people, but we've probably made more contacts and I would call them friends, in the last five months than we did where we lived 7 years prior. And all of a sudden, regarding work, there's all these amazing opportunities that have just manifested into my space. And I'm like, my wife needs to keep having sex with me every day, because whatever is going on is going to transform the way that we make money or manifest wealth or anything along these lines. So there's two really big projects that I'm involved in, and they're kind of hindered by the weather right now because we're still at the tail end of the wet season, and a lot of it has to do with infrastructure projects. I can't believe the opportunities that have presented themselves in such a short period of time, where it's just felt like it was in a drought for years and years and years. And it still hasn't come to complete fruition, but just the impacts that it has is astounding. And it has to be relevant to this because the timing is perfect. It's all happened all at the same time.
Well, you just mentioned a drought that's been happening for years, and now Premala is gutting like no tomorrow.
Absolutely.
and watering and fertilizing all of these projects with her vagina. So it does sound very connected.
Well, I guess following on from that, then, with regards to the male practices, I didn't even realize that initially I would always be thinking about sex to get turned on, as opposed to being able to just be present with myself to get hard to do the practice. And there was always something external, and it didn't even cross my mind that was the case. Where now, I don't know if I interpreted it wrong, but I recollect you saying, just do the practice. Was never big into porn anyway. Try not to think of things out, like maybe use something that you've done with your partner as an instigator to turn you on, to fire you up, but otherwise try and self-generate it. And I think it was a bit confronting how, well, this is my body, this is my vehicle, and it's actually external things that have control over me, as opposed to me being able to generate that myself anyway. And where, to begin with, it was quite confronting, and I was quite down about it, going, how the hell do I not think about something else and stay hard for like 40 minutes to an hour while I'm trying to do self-pleasuring practice to build endurance and to discover all the different layers of sensitivity and the different feelings and stimulants that one can have. And even how unconsciously I would do things, like how the mind would drift off and think about completely irrelevant things. I think it's like one of the complaints that guys have about women, like they're having sex and the guy's not present to what's going on through his room whatsoever, and starts thinking about, did you bring a dog in the house? the guy's just pumping away absent-mindedly. It was almost like having that experience by myself. I could feel my mind drift off during the practice, where it was really just me avoiding dealing with whatever the conflict and the incompletions were there. So as a man, I think that one of the most important things is your opinion, and your opinion doesn't mean shit. Just do the practice. Just do the work. Yes, you need to be in your body and be present to what's going on, but forget about your past, forget about anything that hasn't worked, forget about anything that has worked. Just drop it all and just do the practice. Your opinion is irrelevant, because if it was relevant, you'd already be a stud and you'd be able to smash a woman for hours. As it is, you wouldn't need to do the practice.
So have you been able to keep up with Premala in her new awakened state?
She asks me to stop. She goes, I can't do it anymore.
Because I know I'm about to go over the edge, and I don't want to go over the edge.
When she's getting up and she can't stand properly and her legs are shaking, it's enough. There's times where I've failed and I've been taken over the edge, but that's all just a part of the learning. Like otherwise, no, I can keep up, no problem.
He's had to go back to doing exercise, as I have as well.
Oh, we've been cardio actually. We just burn out, or I'm having to start to lift weights to work on my glutes. My glute muscles burn out.
I love this. So you guys are training so that you can have better sex. You're going to the gym, You're doing more cardio to have better sexual stamina.
Kind of using the sex as the excuse for the cardio, but definitely working on the muscle endurance.
Yes. We've had to, because like I needed to work my core so that I could actually hold certain positions and not get tired and do all those things. Those are important. And so it has been that. He asks for help. He doesn't say it because he doesn't even realize. He'll think about it later. One of the biggest changes that has occurred for David through this in the last few months is that it's not me, but he's actually reached out to other men and asked for help. He has never had other men in his life the way he has now. Like he has a circle of men he's working with. That has never happened before. It's always been women that he's worked with. And now he's got men.
Yeah, that could be, I think, an environment change, but also the field that I was in was dominated by women. But yeah, I struggled to ask guys for help. But now, and that could be anything, whether it's doing some work on the property or just to have a really open and frank conversation. But now it's like, no, just help me. No problem.
Excellent. Premala, are you comfortable sharing what some of the things that you had said that your grandmother had said to you?
I can share that. I'm more than happy to. It's so when the abuse took place, it was, for a start, the abuse it was a family-based abuse, unfortunately, not my mum and dad, but yeah. But I was a kid, and it wasn't just me, it was me and my brother. But when she walked in and she literally discovered what was taking place, she saw it, and you'd think as a grown-up that you would make the individual who's doing it to these kids wrong. No, she made me, being the elder of the two kids, wrong. And she basically said to me that I was a devil girl, I was a whore, I deserve to be punished. I'm absolutely filthy. What kind of thinking were you allowing this kind of thing? I was 6 years old. I didn't know any different. She then said to me that I was, and this was in another language, so I'm translating as well. But basically, she then kept going about, and then she picked me up and pulled me to my mom and dad's room because my mom and dad were away, and she pulled me to my mom and dad's room, and I didn't know what had happened at all, and I was actually bleeding down there, and she turned around and she said to me, "You deserve this. This is what happens when you misbehave and you're a filthy girl. You don't deserve any love." And then she prodded and probed further, and then she turned around and said that I had to keep it a secret, because if I didn't keep it a secret, then then my father would leave my mother, and I would destroy everything, and it would all be my fault. It will always be my fault. And then she walked out of the room, and I was left there crying. And then she told us to keep it a secret. So it became a secret. It was completely shut down. I had no idea where my brother was at that point. And then it all disappeared, and it disappeared into oblivion until it woke itself up again. Which it woke itself up with my brother a lot earlier in life, unfortunately, because there was no compounding. And this is how stupid the system is. This is part of the reason, as a scientist and in the world of the medical world, I just go, what a load of rubbish. The medical field is a load of rubbish. Because my brother woke up to this. He shared it with mom and dad. Papa never said anything wrong. He actually wanted to know what was going on. My mom said that couldn't have happened. I didn't know because I didn't remember. My brother was 16, 17 years old. Anyway, when he got to university and this was still bugging him, he failed his first semester. They told him to go see a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist put him on huge amounts of drugs on a constant basis, circling through 3 different types of drugs of diagnosis. That eventually led to my brother having a heart attack and passing away.
Whoa.
And the psychiatrist's whole thinking of that was that my brother must have had sexual deviancies in himself and was thinking he was gay because he was thinking about a man. And it was like, are you insane? Somebody comes to you with sexual abuse and you tell them that they're yeah. So, yes, it impacted a great deal, and it shut me down because I felt totally, and you can imagine I was 21 when that happened. I felt completely responsible for it. I took it on like it was my fault, and I only realized years later that I took it on as my fault because I was responsible because of what had been spoken to me by my own grandmother all those years ago, because she told me it was my fault. I was responsible for this. She told me I was a whore and I was filthy and I was dirty, and it tied it up together, and it kept playing again and again and again through my entire life, to the point where even though I never wanted to have kids because I felt I would fuck them up and I would make a mess of things. So every time I got pregnant, it would end up getting aborted, or I'd end up having a miscarriage of some nature because my body just rejected it. And I totally stuck to that one up for myself. I shut the door on life and didn't know why I was shutting it until I woke up to the memory of it in full technicolor. And then I just wanted it to shut down. So I am very, very grateful for the fact that this work, what you do, how you say what you say, that you are on the same page, both from the nutrition as well as the medical and all those points of view. Because I go, if we don't take ourselves and seriously, and we don't take responsibility for our own healing, then we are doomed. Because there is no way out there they're going to help you heal. They're just going to perpetuate you to keep feeding the system. And it's, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I have such compassion for your story and admiration for your strength, and just like sadness and shock for the gaslighting, right? Like one after another, the level of gaslighting from family to institution, and then the impact of that, right? Like the impact of that level of trauma and gaslighting to lead your brother to his death, and then for you to have the repercussions in your own life, and then for you, by whatever grace, to find a pathway out and through, and then to have the courage to walk that path is incredibly inspiring. And then, to hear the context of your history, and then, lay that against your sharing of like PTSD or OCD, even the word filthy, right? Like when you talk, like that word being, or that it would, in however it translates from that language, but being uttered by your grandmother and leveled at you, and then what you describe around your feelings of things being unclean, like we just see how much these traumatic events can affect us. And then, that there's always a way out, but yeah, it becomes a lot fucking harder when you've got people deliberately like sending you on detours and gaslighting and lying to you and throwing you in different directions, right? When you actually get a realization, you're like, okay, I've seen it. And then even then you're not done, right? Like people and institutions are still trying to like send you in different directions. And like, it's a maze, that it's a miracle. It's and such a testament to your strength and courage for you to make it out and through that. And then for you guys to create this incredible relationship and thriving, wild bond where your sexuality now becomes your salvation. And I think that's one of the hardest transitions for anyone to make who's had any level of trauma, whether it's the programming that we get or like much more significant and deeper trauma like that you've sustained, to then make it through where, to believe that this thing, and I honestly think that's why sex is weaponized so much, is because it's such a wild 180 to make that this thing, which was so injurious, can then actually be your salvation and your transformation and your pathway to yourself and to God. Right? Because it's a huge thing to overcome, to rewire that in ourselves, right? It's bodily, sexually, spiritually, psychologically. So I really so salute your courage and your tenacity and your, self-love to have come to these places. And I thank you both so much for letting us into your world to hear this, because it's so powerful to hear that triumph.
For me, it's really simple. I've had trauma, and I've somewhat gotten the fact that the world we live in, I don't think there's anybody that hasn't had some level of trauma. It depends on the extent, and it then depends on how much we wish to see it or see ourselves as a victim of that trauma, and whether we are entitled to all of it or we're not. I mean, that's a whole layer of conversation. But when you realize that the trauma has happened and you can choose to live your life powerfully and not be at the mercy of it, then that's where the shift, I think, occurs, where you can take back your life for yourself. And I would never have guessed. I mean, the trauma so the saddest part for me is the trauma that I've experienced. I've chosen to go, it's going to end with me, because this is not just a trauma that my brother and I experienced. Sadly, it's also generational. It's happened. And nobody has dealt with it completely to closure, to completion. I believe we live in a time where that is the opportunity we have with people like yourself who are willing to go down an avenue where it's, and to be able to share the information you have gathered over your lifetime learning. And And sure, there's a stigma, but it doesn't matter. The stigma is always going to be there. It's just, are you going to put that relevance to it? Or are you going to step up and go, my expression of who I am today is going to be determined by me, not by anybody else, not by what has happened to me, not by what can happen to me, but by me now. And to that, I would encourage anyone who listens to this to do the salons, to grab it, do it. Don't just do it. Don't just sit on the fringe of saying, I'll do something. Do it and actually throw yourself into it. Like, make it your life's mission, because this is your healing. This is your medicine. Don't expect someone out there to come with some solution in a bottle that's going to give you the medicine. Your medicine lies in your hands. That's how I would look at it. And I think that's what's given me the strength to get up every day, face what I need to face, and keep moving forward. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you, Premala. Fantastic. Thank you both. I so appreciate you sharing your story and evolution with us.
How amazing is their story? Hearing Premala go from what happened to her, from where she is now, so inspiring. I love being able to share these stories with you to show you that wherever you are, there is always a solution at your genitals. And if you show up, commit, and put in the work and the play, you will find it. Speaking of which, the Coming Together for Couples Salon opens for registration next week. This is my premier online program for showing you how to come together emotionally and sexually. In the meantime, you can sign up for a 7-day sex cleanse. This mini program starts as soon as you register for it. You will receive an email each day with the lesson to view and then assignments, which will be a blend of emotional connection exercises and tantric practices. Go to kimanami.com, click on Sexual Savant Salons, and then click on Coming Together for Couples, and that's where you will find the sign up for the sex cleanse. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, subscribe and also leave a review. And send someone else the gift of a healthy libido and an off-the-charts love life by sharing this episode with them. We'll be back next week, and in the meantime, many happy orgasms.